Welcome to the Duquesne University Coaches Show, presented by UPMC, the official healthcare provider of the Duquesne Dukes, and Mike's Beer Bar. Meet me at Mike's. It's time for the Sherwin-Williams Painting the Picture of Victory segment. Sherwin-Williams, the official paint provider of Duquesne Athletics. Last week, Duquesne faced its second FBS opponent of the season, falling 51-7 on the road to Akron. The Dukes still found some bright spots, starting with Jabari Odeminem, who came up with his first career interception on the opening drive of the game to halt the Zips in the red zone. Offensively, Ness Davis delivered a breakout performance. The redshirt sophomore transfer ripped off a 74-yard run to set up a 1-yard touchdown by Logan Kushner. It was Kushner's second straight game with a rushing score. Davis finished with 102 yards and 11 carries, marking his second career 100-yard game and his first as a Duke. For his efforts, he was named NEC Prime Performer. The matchup was Duquesne's 13th all-time against an FBS opponent and the 5th straight season facing multiple FBS foes. Now the Dukes flipped the page, returning home to host New Haven in their non-conference finale. The Chargers entered 2-2 on a 2-game win streak, with wins over Albany and Saginaw Valley State, following an early loss to Marist and another to Mercyhurst. New Haven is transitioning to become an NEC member and will officially begin play in the league next season. That was the Sherwin-Williams Painting the Picture to Victory segment. Sherwin-Williams is the official paint provider of Duquesne Athletics.
The reason we do this is to change the lives of patients for the better. Pancreatic cancer has a reputation for being a tough cancer to deal with. If you can add mileage to someone's life, the ability for patients to live longer, enjoy time with their family, witness a wedding of a daughter or a son, that's really what we're aiming for.
Introducing Budweiser Zero. 0% alcohol, 0 grams of sugar, full Budweiser flavor. For all the moments you want a beer and need to stay on your game. Budweiser Zero, 0 compromise.
And welcome back to the Duquesne University Football Coaches Show. Tim Benz along with Jerry Schmitt, brought to you by Cordia, creating energy solutions. Jerry, I'm going to start off with an obvious question here where I have to begin. Are you worried about the injury situation if even the broadcasters are coming in banged up?
Well, it was a little rough going into the game Saturday night without, one of our top running backs, one of our top linebackers, and you being on the injured reserve. You got 3 top guys in our program sitting out the game. It's a little bit tough. I hope you're getting better.
Yeah, we're getting there.
I'm going to feel for you. You got some rehab to do here. But you can get in with Taj and Tyson.
Yeah, I might do that.
And get after it.
Whatever tricks they can tell me, and whatever the tricks they can tell me about getting up to the top of the press box at Rooney Field. That's going to be the biggest challenge of this entire rehab. I'm going to make one trip up there. Hopefully I don't forget anything in the car, or else I might not make it back until halftime.
I'm hoping to get a social media video of that.
How about the game itself? You go up, you play Akron, 51-7 the final score. I know it looks lopsided. Where did you think that your team was prepared properly going in, where maybe Akron took you out of what you were trying to do?
Well, we hang tough there at the beginning. Our defense was very stingy, even though they moved the ball down the field, pacing us, trying to wear us out throughout, for the football game. And our guys handled it, didn't give up any explosive plays there in that first series, and then got the interception. From there, I think it was a situation, once again, our offense struggled to get moving early and put some stress on the defense. And when you're playing a team coached by Joe Moorhead, an outstanding coach, let's face it, he's coached at the highest level, Penn State, Oregon, offensive coordinator. He's going to find ways to take advantage, not only schematically, but personnel-wise, and match up the right guys. And he was able to do that with their pace, throughout that first half, and it got rolling pretty good on us. And, it's a tough one to overcome. We understand when you play these FBS games, when they have that many more scholarships and depth and financial resources, that sometimes you get into a situation like that. You've got to play your best to be competing. And we did some things that we could control, or we did not do some things that we could have controlled, which added to that. So we're going to take the lessons we learned from that. We always say failures, you learn from failures and you get better. Well, that's where the question is with this team now is, can we learn from the failures, and can we learn from the things that we have to understand? Sometimes a guy's a little faster than us and we have to play him a little bit different. Or sometimes a guy's a little bigger and stronger. We got to play him a little bit different. And that's going to happen throughout the Northeast Conference schedule.
I remember coming out of Lincoln and Pitt when you were talking about things you could control that you wanted to do better. We talked about penalties primarily being one thing from those two games. What from this game is applicable that you thought you could do better, you can control, and you can do in a more proficient manner going forward for the NEC?
Well, on the offensive side, a little bit more, being more efficient in what we do and making little better decisions in certain situations. Like you're at your highest level of performance to compete against some of the talent that they have. And so you have to be really sharp. And I don't think we were early on. We never really got our legs moving until the second half, and start of the third quarter, we had a drive there. So we have to learn from that. Defensively, we have to get some guys on the ground. Obviously, it's tough to tackle guys when they're really talented, really quick. But we watch from the film. Sometimes when you're playing those guys, even on some of the special teams, you've got to break down, make them go east-west, rally to the football, get them down, even though they got a positive game. That makes them work throughout the entire series. And a lot of times they make mistakes and you get off the field.
One thing that you had managed to imprint from your offense, regardless of if you were playing so far this year, whether it was Lehigh, who's a ranked FCS team, Pitt opening week, is you still got Joey Isabella involved and making big plays. That seemed to be much more of a challenge this week. What did Akron do well in that regard that maybe you can be ready for the next time someone tries to do that to Joey moving forward in conference?
Well, that's a lesson there that we have to learn too, and everybody has to understand that somebody else has to step up, and we have to understand that 4 eyes on Isabella the entire game. You know, they knew where he was. They had 2 guys on him. They were going to play him under and over top and not let him get free. So we have to have other guys step up and make plays.
Moving over to the defensive side of the ball, I talked about tackling, getting guys to the ground. You were playing without Tyson Miguez, one of your best linebackers. Jabari Odeminem, who was a guest of ours here last week, had a nice interception for you. And you got Epps back, too, which I'm sure is going to be helpful moving into conference play. Can you kind of evaluate maybe layer by layer on your defense, the defensive line, linebackers, and secondary, how you thought they played?
Yeah, you're playing bigger offensive linemen and a little tougher to get pressure. And so we have to find ways, you know, not only schematically, but just physically, individually, how to utilize our talents, the talents we have, to take advantage of what they have. And if they're bigger and stronger, you got to maybe use some edge rushing, which Dunkley does really well. But when they're sitting in there too, chipping you off of that, you just have to find ways to do that. Linebacker play, you know, with Tyson out, we had some other guys playing. Did fairly well. The tackling's the biggest issue, especially at that level, the linebacker level. And then sometimes there's a fine line between giving a guy some ground and competing. And so when you're covering guys, you know, you have respect for them, but you have to compete too. So I think one of the things from that coaching staff on the defensive backfield was, let's go compete against them. They're going to make plays. You got help behind you. Let's go compete and cover those guys. So we learned from that, and we watch that, and we watch a film. The guys will learn from that.
Couple of positives on offense from the ground game aspect. Ness Davis popped a 74-yard run, and Sean Solomon actually averaged 5.9 yards per carry on the 11 attempts that he had. I know he got 34 in one chunk there himself. So he had a couple of chunk play runs. How did those manifest, and what can you do to try to replicate that more often as you get into conference play?
Well, I think we'll maybe get some more carries, because when you're not churning out first downs, you're not getting opportunities to get more carries and getting a flow in the running game. You know, Sean's were grinding it out. You know, like you said, he had a 34, but he had a couple 3 and 4 tough runs, you know, over and over. So that's who he is. Didn't have a chance necessarily really to break out like Ness did, and we were happy to get him carries. Quality carries, and he showed us what he can do. Showed some speed, you know, because you don't really know until you get in a game situation. Mm-hmm. You know, there's 40 times, and there's practice times, and then game times, and I thought he really showed some speed there. And he's a tough runner. We knew that. So was happy to see that, happy to see him do that. I think he was a prime performer in the NEC this week. So we're looking forward. That shows us now we got depth. We get Taj back. we got 3 or 4 guys. D-Hop had a few carries. He's been coming on as a redshirt freshman right now. So we're happy with the depth we have there.
Danny Tarabrella, who was a guest of ours in advance this season for the Pitt game, and that was on the radio side, and a real nice piece to your offense since he made the transition over to tight end from linebacker. He got banged up during the game. We got Garrett Harold in there, got him a couple receptions. What does he bring at tight end, and how's Tarabrella coming along?
Danny's day-to-day here, but it's a big loss. Not only a physically talented football player, but very smart, and our tight ends are those guys that make a lot of different decisions and calls and have to be one of the smartest guys on the offense, and we move him around so much. Garrett's learning. He's a work in progress in his learning, but he's doing really good. He can catch a football. He can run with it. He is not afraid to back down, even though he's only 210 pounds or so and, a tall drink of water, but he's battling in there. He won't back down to any linebacker or defensive end he's got to kick out that might be 250, 260. He'll battle it and get after it. So we're happy with his progress. You're happy he got some reps in there, some game reps, and, we're looking forward to him and potentially Noah Canty's getting better and better. And so if we can get that depth build up, it'll help us.
Yeah, good to see him back in uniform and getting ready to be woven into the offense. Lastly, this game against New Haven, how did this come to pass? Because this was a bye week initially.
Yeah.
And it was a very strategic, very logical bye week to go through your FBS opponents and have a break before conference play. So can you talk about why the decision was made to play the Chargers, who will be an NEC opponent of yours moving forward?
Yeah, they made a last-second decision in June to join the conference, to move up from Division II to Division I, and they were scrambling for football games, and when they agreed to come to Rooney, we always love to play on Rooney, and another home game is always good for the Dukes. So we said, okay, let's venture into that, playing our 12th game. We've not done that in the past. So we're looking forward to being home here for a couple weeks in a row. And we understand it's a really good Division II program moving up, and trust me, our guys understand. We don't take anybody lightly, and some of the older guys have mentioned it has happened in the past with some teams have come up from Division II and they may have taken them lightly. A couple of years ago, that we were in that same situation. So we've got to go out and get back on track and playing our Duquesne football and getting some flow in our game, and it'll be good to be home this week.
All right. Well, Jerry, thanks a lot for taking the time to join us. I appreciate it. I'll do my best to get up there and be strapped in and ready to go in time for kickoff on Saturday. Be here at the campus of Duquesne University for the final home game for the Dukes before the conference play starts the next week against Stonehill. And like Jerry just said, 3 home games in a row at Arthur J. Rooney Field here on the campus of Duquesne University. For Jerry Schmitt, I'm Tim Benz. We've got plenty more to come. McLaurin Center for the Duquesne Dukes is coming up, brought to you by Cordia, creating energy solutions. UPMC Sports Medicine, the official healthcare provider of Duquesne Athletics, and Mike's Beer Bar on the North Shore. Meet me at Mike's.
Hey, Mom, how do you choose a checking account?
Hey, Mom, what happens if I don't pay my minimums?
Why do they call it interest when everyone's uninterested in paying it?
What do you mean being hungry doesn't qualify for using my emergency fund?
Get the answers to your financial questions from people who actually have the answers.
Oh. Love you, Mom.
Clearview. Clearly different.
Science doesn't happen in a silo. More and more, we need to have expertise from lots of different fields. And so that's one of the amazing things here at Hillman. Everyone here is committed to doing research that is going to ultimately help patients' lives. So bringing together lots of different smart minds that have a common mission is really the way that we're going to move forward.
At Duquesne, it's our joy to help you discover what you're good at and why that's good for the world. We want you to become a problem solver who thinks bigger, who is driven by compassion and empathy. Together, we will work towards achieving your goals and a greater sense of purpose. We're ready with an education that's everything you need and more than you imagined. It's time for bigger goals. Duquesne University.
Welcome back to Duquesne University Football Coaches Show. Tim Benz with you. Glad that you're with us. Brought to us by Mike's Beer Bar. Meet me at Mike's, and UPMC, the official healthcare provider of the Duquesne Dukes. We're now brought to you by the Academy Schools, as well as Cam McLaurin is joining us, brought to us by Summit Academy, inspiring hope through education and treatment. Cam, thanks a lot for taking some time to join us. Greatly appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
So we were talking before we started rolling tape here. You go up to Akron, you play against the Zips, and you guys have done pretty well hanging with some of the MAC schools that you faced, especially early on. But this one got away a little quicker than expected. Even though you made a nice defensive play to snuff a drive, Jabari O'Demonham with a really key interception for you guys early. What would you have liked to have done better early in that game against Akron?
Early in the game, I would have liked to click better as a whole, offensive unit, and then, complement the defense well. They get a turnover, you like to come on the field and at least put a drive together. I think we went 3 and out, so that's kind of tough on the defense, especially you just made a big play. You got to go right back out there. Then obviously some special teams mishaps early on are never good, especially when you're playing a bigger opponent like that. That's how it kind of gets away from you quick.
You've had various alignments in the schedules in the time that you've been here with the Dukes pre-conference as to how these FBS games have been woven into your schedule. Sometimes they're back-to-back, sometimes there's a week off, sometimes there's a D2 team in between.
Yeah.
This time you play Pitt. There was so much helium going into that game.
Yes.
And then you have Lincoln, and you have a top 10 FCS opponent in Lehigh before you go back to the FBS. How's that sort of emotional roller coaster been for the team to ride this year?
When you're playing different opponents like that every week, it's kind of hard to get a groove because every team is so different. Going from Pitt to a D2 to Lehigh, all those guys play football so differently and have such different talent levels. It's kind of hard to get your footing and get used to, how we play in football. How is our competition going to be like? So it's kind of like a slippery slope sliding around there those first couple of weeks, but we're ready to lock in and go forward conference play.
On the positive side, you did hit a couple of big pop running plays. Sean Solomon had a long one. Ness Davis had one that flipped the field and resulted in a touchdown for you, and Logan Kushner getting in as the second quarterback. Second week in a row he's done that. Let's talk about, because this is a little reminiscent of when you played against Youngstown State last year. You had a couple home run running plays, and I felt like that really got your running game in gear for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
A little carryover there potentially for you guys?
Definitely. Would have liked to have those runs a little earlier in the game. Would have helped us out, but we'll take them when we can get them, and that just kind of shows that we know who we are. We know we can run the ball. We know we can throw the ball. We just got to keep working on executing and get more of those plays.
One talking point that has often been the case is you've gotten towards conference play, and I know we're not quite there yet because you got New Haven, who will be a conference opponent next year. But how you guys are doing health-wise? I know you're battling a couple injuries, but the guys along the offensive line, physically, how are you holding up?
We're healthy for the most part. Bumps and bruises are going to come. You got to kind of, get in the rehab room, talk to coach, control your reps throughout the week, make sure when we get to Saturday, you're healthy, you know what you're doing, and, we can all kind of go out there and do what we do.
I had Brian Bidach on the show last week in advance of the game against Akron, and he was talking about playing different positions along the offensive line, the differences between playing left tackle and right tackle, and I was surprised at how easy he made it sound. In your time playing, in whether it was center, guard, whatever, tackle at various points, were you tackle in high school?
Yeah, senior year.
So what was that like moving for you?
At first it was a little different. Playing center, I played at center like a little bit in high school, but never really was like predominantly a center. So it's definitely a little different, but I mean, at the end of the day, still playing offensive line. It's just more of like minute technique that changes throughout the positions. But for the most part, I mean, if you know what you're doing, you should know what everyone else is doing, and that kind of makes it a little bit easier to know what everyone's doing.
As far as the guys behind you, see Matt get some time at center, Matt Brooks. How's he holding up, and how have you schooled at all any of the guys who might be learning the nuances of playing center, particularly the snap aspect and going from the snap to the blocking part of the game?
Well, Brooks didn't play center in high school and was a defensive lineman his first couple of years here.
Yeah, that's a big change.
Yeah, a big change. So a little bit of growing pains early on, but he's definitely developing, and you can tell he's getting it down. And I'm excited for him in the future. I think he's going to be a really good center.
What else besides the mechanics of the snap to then blocking are the hurdles that you have to get over learning that position?
There's kind of a mentality to it, because you got to remember, like, you're making the calls. You got to have a little bit of confidence behind your voice when you're out there. The guys got to trust you, and then just kind of believe in, like, hey, the snap, my step, where my eyes at, and just staying calm, because it's really easy to get out of hand and get emotional out there, but it's about staying calm and just kind of go on the path.
Talked about confidence. How's the confidence level of the team getting back to FCS play when you get New Haven this week?
We're really just focusing on, we know who we are, and we got to just double down, not get out of control. No one's happy with the result, but we can't hang our heads on it, and we're just looking to move forward and get back to doing what we do.
As we talked about before, this is a team that's coming into NEC play. You've done this a couple times, I think, during your time here. Jerry and I were just speaking about this, where an NEC opponent will come to Rooney Field the year before they get into conference competition. There's a little bit more of an edge there, I think, because especially the guys who are underclassmen are going to come back and see these guys repeatedly. There's a learning process that can take place here in these games as well.
Yeah, I mean, you try to just treat them like a conference opponent. They're going to be in the conference next year. They're a D1 school now, so we're just looking at like another NEC game.
We're a little early in the week here, but as far as any study you've had in the Chargers, what have you picked up about them defensively that you'll be going up against?
They don't do anything crazy defensively that we haven't seen. We haven't gotten too deep into the film yet. I've just watched a couple of their games. They play hard. Their linebackers are good. Their defensive line moves a lot. So, it's going to be a challenge.
Tyler Rydell and Logan Kushner, how's your relationship blossoming with the two quarterbacks that you've been working with?
Good. I love both those guys. A lot more work with Tyler, but love both those guys.
We were actually joking with Tyler and Jerry in a previous show about, his mobility. He had a couple of long runs that then Logan would go into the end zone. It's sort of like, I don't even know if you're old enough to remember when Deuce Staley used to run the ball down the field and then Jerome Bettis would polish it off with a touchdown. But Logan's been doing that a little bit. He's cherry-picked. He's vultured a couple touchdowns here.
Yeah, maybe they should let T.Y. get those ones, run those ones in. But, Kushner's an athletic guy, too, so I think they like to utilize him in that goal line situation. So I think it worked out.
Listen, Cam, thanks a lot for the time. Greatly appreciate it. Best of luck coming up against the University of New Haven. Best of luck getting into conference play. Look forward to it. A bunch of games here in a row at Rooney Field. That's got to be a happy point for you guys to know that you're settled in here and you're going to be playing at home for a while.
We do like playing at home.
All right, thanks, Cam. Cam McLaurin, center for the Duquesne Dukes, has been our guest here on the Duquesne University Football Coaches Show, brought to you by Mike's Beer Bar, meet me at Mike's, and brought to you by UPMC Health Plan, the official healthcare provider of Duquesne Athletics. More to come in a moment here on SportsNet Pittsburgh.
As Western Pennsylvania's largest regional public accounting firm with local ownership and management, Schneider Downs gives you the global ideas your company needs right here at home. Schneider Downs, big thinking, personal focus.
For all your sports watching needs and great food, meet me at Mike's. Mike's Beer Bar was voted best sports bar in Pittsburgh. 300 local beers, 80 local taps, over 500 beers, and steak on a stone. Mike's Beer Bar, next to PNC Park, Federal Street, North Shore.
Science doesn't happen in a silo. More and more, we need to have expertise from lots of different fields. And so that's one of the amazing things here at Hillman. Everyone here is committed to doing research that is going to ultimately help patients' lives. So bringing together lots of different smart minds that have a common mission is really the way that we're going to move forward.
It's time to look behind the numbers, courtesy of the accounting and consulting firm Schneider Downs. Find out how big thinking with a personal focus can help your organization. Through 4 games, Duquesne has scored 13 touchdowns, the most in the NEC, and is tied for the league lead, averaging 23 points per game. Graduate wide receiver Joey Isabella is closing in on a milestone. He enters this week with 1,905 career receiving yards, just 95 shy of 2,000, all in a Dukes uniform. Isabella leads the team with 333 yards this season, ranking 15th in the FCS. Graduate transfer quarterback Tyler Rydell has put up 8,672 passing yards in his career, the second most among all active FCS quarterbacks. On defense, junior lineman Jack Dunkley has been one of the most disruptive players in the country. In just 20 career games, he has recorded 12.5 sacks and 4 forced fumbles. Dunkley ranks 3rd nationally among all active FCS defenders in career sacks per game and career forced fumbles per game. That was a look behind the numbers, courtesy of the accounting and consulting firm Schneider Downs. Find out how big thinking with a personal focus can help your organization. On Saturday, September the 27th, the Duquesne Dukes host New Haven for their non-conference finale. Kickoff from Rooney Field is at noon. The game will be streamed on NEC Front Row and broadcast locally on SportsNet Pittsburgh with radio coverage on Fox Sports Pittsburgh 970. For more game day information, visit GoDuquesne.com. This Road Ahead segment is brought to you by Dean Honda. Dean Honda, visit them on Route 51 in Pleasant Hills or at deanhonda.com.